Welcome everybody to the Chuck Jones Creativeside Chat. Ever since April, May, we've been hosting these events with creatives from all over the field in art. And tonight is especially special because sometimes when I do these, I have no idea. I've never met the person before. I've seen their art. I've admired what they've done. And I get to know them a little bit beforehand and then during the interview. And then there's after the interview, I get to know them even better. In this instance, I already know this man and I consider him a friend. And so it is with extreme joy that I get to introduce tonight the venerable, the ultra talented, don't look shocked right now, just let me gush all over you, the extremely witty, right, unbelievably talented Daniel Killen. Daniel, welcome to the Chuck Jones Creativeside Chat, sir.
Thank you very much. Not to be sarcastic, I thought you were going to say Eric Goldberg, but
I could have thrown everybody off, and then I would have needed you to just do something interesting, Eric Goldberg style. But I consider you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. So welcome to this. I've admired your work for a long time, and in getting to know you, especially to see what you've done in the past, you've worked on some of my all-time favorite stuff. Daddy. And hold on one second, honey. I understand he does that. You're going to have to ask mommy because daddy's on TV right now. Okay, well then why don't you go ask her again? Thank you very much. Anyway.
Does she have a question?
Yes, it was something about an owie and her little brother who did something. There you go. So, as you know, because you were out here last year and you got to experience the littles. So, you know, like I said, I've admired your work, and then to know what you've worked on in the past, one of my all-time favorites, Iron Giant. We'll get into that in a little bit. I always find it fascinating to hear how did you get into what you do? How did you know you wanted to do what you did? And, you know, where did that all come from? And so to hear kind of the origin story, if you will, of Sir Daniel Killen is when you got, like, you've been an animator, you've worked at Warner Brothers, you worked at DreamWorks, you've done Disney Fine Art, you've done Warner Brothers and Looney Tunes. Did you know when you were little that this is what you wanted to do?
I knew since I was little that I wanted to work in animation. I knew my early teens, that's what I wanted to do. I didn't know how any of it worked. I didn't know what capacity. And but yes, I always had a fascination with it. And when I was a young teen, maybe 11 or 12, I'd have my dad take me on drives up to LA, or he'd go to LA for some reason, take me with me. And I found out where Hanna-Barbera was. So I just have him drive me past the building just so I could see it.
Yes.
Sometimes when I was up there with my brother, spent a lot of time living up with my older brother. When he learned to drive, we'd be up there and he'd take me past. I just was Hanna-Barbera Studios. I just in awe, you know, what magic is going on there. But I was much more of a Hanna-Barbera, but mostly a Warner Brothers person. I wasn't necessarily, I loved, say, Disney movies, but my influence because of what was shown on TV was always, you know, Bugs Bunny and Daffy and Warner and Hanna-Barbera. So it just started with that because I loved cartoons, those cartoons, and I wanted to somehow be a part of that world. But there's also that part of me that says, you know, how can some kid in Orange County possibly, you know, get a job doing that? So I spent a lot of time as I grew older talking myself out of it.
Really?
And,
so did you go through and, like, was there a point in maybe junior high school where the art was coming out? Yeah, I got they're now running all over behind me in the background. Where you kind of, maybe you talked yourself back into it? Was there a kind of a pivotal moment maybe, or something that sparked it a little bit again as you got into high school?
I got, not in high school, not into college. It didn't happen, I think, until I was about I'm going to say I'm 55 right now. The possibility of working in animation didn't come around till I was 35 years old.
What? Well, first of all, hold on a second. You're 55?
Yes.
Dude, I look older than
In
you.
dog years.
I look like 55. You look about 26. So whatever you're taking, I could use some of. So anyway.
I'll send you the recipe.
Thank you. So you got into like 30, like what was that moment then that you hit that you're like, yeah, that?
I of course, like I continue to do art, but not in an animation sense. And Disney had a lot of big success with their movies, with their big feature animation movies in the late 80s and 90s. And I saw maybe, I started dreaming about it. Again, not sure how to get into it. And I met someone at Disneyland of all places, and we became friends, and he told me about these classes, these ROP classes being held in a suburb of LA called Hacienda Heights, and doesn't cost anything. And you take classes, will teach you how to do traditional animation. And I'd worked at my job for 10 years in a warehouse, and I hated it. And someone asked me, ideally, what would you like to do for a living? And animation, traditional animation in Hollywood came out of my mouth. And I didn't care what studio. I prefer Warner Brothers characters as far as, I was thinking maybe TV animation or something, but I started going to this class. I left the job and was pulling weeds at a golf course in Newport Beach. I got a job digging ditches, and at night I'd go to this animation school. And we're moving along now to like 1995. And one day at the animation school, these headhunters showed up from Warner Brothers of all places, and said they were looking for people to help effects animation with a movie they were working on with Bugs Bunny and Michael Jordan called Space Jam.
Oh, that movie.
Yeah, that movie. And no, not that one, the other one. And all right, well, this is and I'm still, that voice is telling me I'm not good enough. Maybe, I'm doing like animation tests, pencil tests, a ball bouncing,
right,
or a lightning strike or something like that. Some character work. And they had tests. They chose a group of us who the teacher liked, and I was one of them. And I was one of the people who went in the back room. The teacher didn't mention me, but I went in the back room anyway. I was kind of deceptive.
Yes.
And a girl at the front door, at the door of this room, they're all going to say, did the teacher send you back here? I'm like, yes. Yes, he did. That teacher right there.
Yeah, that guy.
That guy.
Yeah.
Because of all days, I didn't have my portfolio with me. And so we met with these two people, and they said, okay, we're going to give you tests. And right now I'm thinking, this isn't real. How this all happened isn't, how did I fall into this? I was just working at this warehouse. Found out about this ad because of the success of feature animation movies. They're ramping up. Warner Brothers was ramping up. Another company called Rich Animation was ramping up movie production of animated features. They were looking for artists who are interested, just like that. And I spent 2 weeks in a training program. I took a test. They liked my animation test. 2 weeks in a training program, they hired me.
No kidding.
Like that. And I started off at the in-between position, and an in-betweener, like an animator, say like Eric Goldberg or someone, say, for a big scene, they'll have like 5 main pose drawings for a scene. And then a breakdown artist will do the drawing or two in between those 5 drawings. And then the in-betweener will do like the 80 drawings in between those 5 original drawings. And that's what an in-between, so it's a lot of work. And I guess I did well. I worked in animation for 8 years, warehouse, picking weeds, animation for 8 years in Hollywood. And I flipped-flopped between Warner Brothers and DreamWorks.
Now, were you on like where it was a project based? So once you were done with a project, then you had to find another one?
You had to find, if you had a contract that says, we'll pick up your option for the next movie we're working on. That would happen a couple of times. But often, yeah, the other times you were networking, reapplying. So every project ends, so you're laid off. And hopefully you get onto the next one if, you know, get along with people and stuff. Disney did want to hire me at one point, but I'd already signed up for Warner Brothers, so I didn't get that opportunity. But when I wasn't working in animation, at home, in a dinky little studio like this, I would do freelance jobs for Western Publishing, which is the company Disney would use for like their coloring books and their golden books. And I ended up doing, and I attribute animation for this, for learning to do nice drawings, nice lines, and working with brushes and Indian ink. I did, with the help of the friend I met at Disneyland, kind of a mentor, but I did like the Pocahontas giant activity book. You know,
Really?
and stuff like that, and coloring books. And so that was my introduction to Disney, having my, you know, Disney under my belt, not knowing that things would change later. But after 8 movies, Iron Giant being one of them and Space Jam, things started going to computer.
Yeah, well, let's back that up before we just gloss over 2 giant movies. So you were working on Space Jam when obviously Michael Jordan was a big deal, which he still is a big deal. I'm from Chicago, and I have a number 23 jersey, and there is only one number 23, just so you all know. There is one 23.
Right.
The other 23 is like a small lowercase 23. And so that movie was fantastic when it came out. Bill Murray, all that kind of fun stuff. And then we get to Iron Giant. Now, don't just gloss over that, because
I'm good at glossing.
I'm just saying, we don't want to like move past too fast. So you get to work with Brad Bird, who I love as a director and a writer. I think he does amazing work. And you get to work on this film that I've been dying for a sequel to, right? Because it would only make sense. But I love the art. I love the story. It's one of my all-time favorite animated films. When you were working on that, like, what was that kind of atmosphere working with that crew?
It was, I think everyone knew it was a great movie. Brad Bird had a great reputation in the industry. He had, I guess, worked a lot on The Simpsons and stuff. And people would just, he was treated kind of like a rock star. I wasn't as familiar with him because I wasn't so much into The Simpsons and stuff, but I think everyone knew it was a great movie, to the point where they kept spreading rumors around the hallways, gossip, that, you know, they're going to turn this into a live movie. They're going to fire all of us and turn this into a live movie. It's good enough to be. And I'm glad they didn't, because I think it works better as an animated movie. And it just, you knew you were working on something really solid and good. Other movies I worked on, you're never quite sure, is this going to work? They seem not sure about this. But this movie, you know, they would take us, we worked in Glendale, and they, every couple of weeks, they have the crew meet down at a place called the Alex Theater.
Mm-hmm.
And Brad Bird would go on stage and give us a report, how are things going and stuff. And it was a big a boost to the troops. And we would always, sometimes alone, sometimes with others, we go up to the concept art area. and look at all the concept art. And I think because like a few of us, like I grew up watching a show like Gigantor when I was little, animation of a giant robot and stuff. And so the idea of working in a giant robot movie was pretty neat. And I still have my crew jacket.
Do you really?
I was a bit wider then. So, and apparently shorter, but still got it. And it's like, it just seemed like a cool movie. It's just in the atmosphere. And so much so that, you know, I did a lot of doodling and my line work. I was asked by the head of our department to do some prop design, which I have copies of here. And
yes,
little props like binoculars, Hogarth's binoculars, or a shake or something. But a neat story, if I can share it, if it's okay. We each had our own little cubicles, and they needed something that said Atomic Holocaust.
So is that what you have? Do you have those things right there? Do you have them?
Some of them are originals, some of them are copies. I'll find it. But
well, while you're finding that, here's what I want. You were out here in Chicago for our Red Dot Chicago last year, and
yes.
I'm gonna bring up my Art of Iron Giant book because I love this.
You can only see me in both squares. I can't see you.
All right. Well, hold on a second. I'm gonna.
Oh, there you are.
There I am. See. All right. So I have my Art of Iron Giant book, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I found out that they were going to make an Art of book, I pre-ordered it, and the publishing company, like, even though it came out, I never got it for a year. So then I ordered it off Amazon, still trying to get my book. And then you signed the book that I bought off Amazon, but then I think I lent it out to a student. So there goes my signature that you did.
Yeah.
And then I got this other book. So I have this book, and you were here, and I'm like, hey, I know you signed the other one, but if you wanted to, you know, do you think you might sign this one? And I promise I won't give this away. So on page 102,
Yes.
there is my Daniel Killen signature plus a note and a sketch of the Iron Giant himself. I love this book and I treasure that. We won't mention the pencil and the pencil sharpener, which I think is hilarious. Because so here to give you a little backstory, right? Daniel was out here. We had a Red Dot Chicago. He was drawing all over the backs of everybody's canvases that were purchasing stuff. As a matter of fact, semi-struck. So Karen and Nick, if you're watching, they have one of the, and you did this scene on the back, and he's like, "Can I borrow a pencil?" Sure. And so I didn't realize that it's a pencil. I have plenty of pencils and a pencil sharpener.
You do?
Yeah, go figure. And so I said, okay, fine. And then you ended up taking it home, and then I get it mailed to me because you felt bad that you had my pencil.
I didn't want to come off as a thief.
Oh, you're fine. It was
those
good.
Black wing pencils, man.
They are, and they're not like cheap, but they're not like super expensive. So,
no. Then here's the deal. As I put it in the slot at the post office and let go, it's like locking your keys in the car, right? Back when you could do this, as I let it go and I hear it slide, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's gonna think I'm a crazy person.
Like, you could have kept it and I would have had no idea. And then I texted you, but you didn't get my text, but that's okay. So
all that sleepless nights.
Yes, well, and I'm glad, like, we had just talked about this earlier this week, and now we've got it out. Everything is healed. We're all fine. Yes. So we've got a couple of questions as they're popping in. It was good because it was some things that
That was a big honor, by the way, just not to gloss over it. But that was a big honor. I mean, it was such a big deal for me to sign that book for that. Someone else that I had to go alone and be with my, in that room by myself. I had to sit and breathe.
You did.
There was some chanting involved.
You were like, I'm just going to go up front. I'm going to go up there for a little bit. Everything is fine. And then you left and you're like, there might be a little something in that book.
Yes.
So I loved it. And I really appreciated it because I love that movie. I love that you were a part of it. You're a friend. And so to have someone I know connected to that.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
we've got, I want to give a shout out to Lee and Charles. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I haven't seen them since, oh man, like last JFG, I think. So we've got a couple of questions coming in. It's good because it's something I wanted to get into, and you had mentioned this already. So every time in a Chuck Jones Creativeside Chat, we talk about Chuck's influence, right? Because he's influenced every person that we've done a Creativeside Chat with in some way.
Right.
So what I wanted to ask was, one, what's your, what was your Chuck influence? You mentioned growing up, watching Looney Tunes, and then two, what other influence people have influenced you, your style, that kind of thing. Who else like comes to mind? Like, man, I really love this person.
Well, I'll answer the second question first.
And by the way, I'm going to give a shout out to Don, because Don is the one who popped that question. So way to read my mind, Don. I'm asking on your behalf.
All right. I asked the second question first, answer the second one first. First of all, I guess two people would be the answer for question two, as far Norman Rockwell and Gary Larson, as far as how I approach things. Even if it's not funny, I like there being some sort of story, some sort of maybe even covert story you don't necessarily see, but there's something going on in my artwork, and some sort of maybe hidden message. And that style of sort of sharp sort of sarcasm, well, not sharp, but covert sarcasm, something that can be said in one frame. But the first one, Chuck Jones, I realized, like, when I first got the opportunity to work for Chuck Jones, that all of the cartoons I saw that he did, that I loved, rather, all the ones I loved ended up being Chuck Jones. And I'd have to say my answer to that first question, the biggest influence would have to be, I'm hoping I'm remembering the question right, but timing. The timing, the brilliant timing, that he didn't mind pausing for a moment before something ridiculous happened. Like an example would be like the one Wile E. Coyote cartoon where he takes something and it turns him into a twisting tornado, and his plan to get the Roadrunner failed. And then he's walking away after it failed. He keeps twisting. Then he walks more twisting. And then he quietly walks over a hill and disappears. And then there's a beat, and then you hear the twist again. And just that timing, that I don't think making that movie and just saying it's for kids, I'm like, a kid wouldn't maybe even notice that. But as an adult, I know he had to have been secretly making a lot of these bits for adults who would get it. And so when I approach something, there has to be that kind of aha, what's going to happen next moment. And something has happened here in this scene. And what the result of that can go either way, what's going to happen. And there's that pause. And that, I think, I've applied so much of my own artwork, and I owe it to a lot of those cartoons.
So what I love about that is you mentioned Chuck's timing and his influence on that, and your ability to tell a story, right? Which is one of the things that I love about your artwork, is it's extremely witty. And even your little sketches that you just post up on a daily thing that might have something to do with whatever's topical, freaking hilarious. Because you have this way of, to me, it's in that Chuck way of being able to tell a story that's funny, and you're doing it in an illustrated way, and it's for everybody. Like Chuck would do stuff that, they would do stuff to make themselves laugh, and if they laughed, it was funny.
Right.
Right? And you have that same vibe and what you put into all your work. I've got all these pieces, and we're going to get into all this deliciousness that's behind me, right? And in your artwork and everything that you put forth. And I love that about your stuff. It's something immediately identifiable as Daniel Killen, is what's going on in the actual frame of whatever I'm seeing. So I love that.
what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen. You know, but I know we'll get into them. We'll talk about more later. But you know,
so we had an interesting question pop into, and this is from Tracy. And Tracy asked, "What do you wish you knew in the beginning of your career that you know now? Like something that you'd be like, you would go back and tell yourself."
that maybe this is kind of small t, but I wish I knew then. What I know now is that this will all people will like your artwork. I spent decades not doing artwork, but not selling or anything because I think, well, maybe people just won't like it. And I still have that visit me sometimes, but I wish I knew then that, you know, people are going to like you. You're going to make friends. People are going to say really nice things about your artwork and tell you how much you love your artwork. Things that I never was able to tell myself. And still sometimes not, but not so much anymore.
I would hope not, because you got.
I wish I knew then what I know now then, because then I may have started getting into this much sooner. I wouldn't have been filled with so much doubt starting up. You know, it's no false modesty. I mean, people, are you really that shy? Are you really that modest and stuff? And I'm like, I'm not aware of it. I feel like I'm just being myself. And people have been cheerleaders for me when most of the time when I wasn't able to be my own cheerleader. First of all, I'd look ridiculous in the outfit, but
unless it's like SNL, right? And you're like a Will Ferrell cheerleader, and that's fine.
Yeah, but yeah, I wish I known that. It would have given me the confidence. It would have given me the confidence, and so I wish I'd had that all along.
Which and it's interesting that you say that, because you know, I think anybody, especially, you know, speaking strictly in the creative field and the arts, sometimes you put yourself out there, right, and you do things for you. And you know, so I would say, even especially today, I see this with kids and even friends of mine who are adults, and they put it out on Instagram, and if it doesn't get, you know, they feel bad if it doesn't get a lot of likes or something, and we've kind of conditioned ourselves a little bit to but and the whole point is just get it out there. Just do it. Whether you post it, whether you don't post it, whatever, just do it. And to your point, people will like it. And I'm telling you right now, Bruce is like, your artwork is wonderful, Daniel. Keep up the good work. Bruce loves you. And we love Bruce. And we love Bruce. So
Bruce is always traveling. I always think of Indiana Jones music when I see Bruce's posts, because he has a little arrow going, little dots going to where he's going.
Yes.
I'm like, cue the Indiana Jones. He's off to Philadelphia.
Dun, 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 dun,
right. Dun, dun, dun. Then I picture like this old float plane flying with the clouds.
Yes.
Cutting to Bruce in the seat, looking at a pamphlet or a Skyway magazine, and it cuts to the plane making it, and the Philadelphia comes in and fades to the scene where him, you know,
with a nefarious figure in the back in a very dark outfit and a newspaper up over his face.
I learned long ago I spent too much time thinking about Bruce traveling.
Well, I'm sure he appreciates it at least. And, you know, I look at Bruce's traveling too. I'm like, I don't know how you do it, man. I'd go nuts. So speaking of traveling, we've got, if you're traveling around the interwebs right now, as you watch us live, you can go to chuckjonescatalog.com/Daniel-Killen. There's a hyphen, Daniel-.
There's a hyphen?
There is. Yeah, it's, you know, the internet. And so you can go to check. There we go. So Scott Ryder's got us some images up top. We've got the Albuquerque Balloon Festival. Now, I want to get into that a little bit, and we'll start to explore a little bit more about your pieces and what's involved in those. But we had a question come in from Mary, and Mary wanted to know, like, how did you connect with the Albuquerque International Balloon Fest and start creating these amazing images?
Well, Chuck Jones, Robert, you know Robert.
We love Robert.
He asked me, can you come up with an idea? You know, I think there was maybe another artist or something involved, but it kind of like a, you know, what would you think about doing this idea? You told me what the balloon fiesta, I mean, I'm familiar with balloon fiestas. And there it is.
Yep.
I posed for that, you know. That coyote.
Debonair, yes.
Actually made a coyote outfit and laid on the ground and took a picture of myself. And but yeah, for reference.
Yeah, well, you're dedicated. There's no doubt about that.
And so it's sort of like an audition, and I guess they liked my idea, my concept, which is, I guess, pretty similar to what you just saw. So, and I guess they'd seen all my other work with the colors and stuff. So that, I mean, it's not like I went to Albuquerque and knocked on the door, which is something maybe I would have done a couple of times in my life earlier. So that was neat. So it was that simple. They liked my work that Robert presented to them after I did I think it was a black and white concept. So yeah, they had to have the coyote and roadrunner in it.
Now, were you just working in value studies for your concepts? So that was it, and that's what you pitched on without any color?
Correct. I mean, I did tones, you know, shades and stuff, but the idea, it's kind of silhouetted, but beyond that, no, I don't recall there being color. And then I think later I did a color idea. I kind of blocked it all in. I took the drawing and scanned it and blocked it all in color. This is my idea. And I think, if I recall, that's what happened, and they liked it. Then after that, they just kind of let me go. And I did my own thing. And I thought of state things for New Mexico, you know, the state flower, state butterfly and stuff, and the mountains there behind where the balloon fiesta is. And
I think like there is so much into your pieces, especially in those, and I find new stuff every time. And when we did, you just look at this piece right here, and you're meticulous. So when Daniel was out here for Red Dot Chicago last December, and we had a whole big show, we had 2 nights. We had Red Dot Friday night, we did Visual Candy night Saturday night, and Saturday night was all about gallery artwork. So the Chuck Jones stuff was up, Daniel was out here with things, and we had other friends of ours, artists and some Disney guys and stuff out here, and our faces glued to because I have Semi-Struck, which is an original, which is here. So that is the original.
Was it water soluble glue? I mean,
yes, it came right off. Nothing. You had already varnished the canvas. There was no marks. We were all good. Robert made sure of that. And then we had the Lonely Hearts Club band, right? And we're all sitting here looking at your pieces. And
that doesn't make me self-conscious at all, by the way.
No, you shouldn't feel self-conscious, because we're looking at your pieces, and I'm a little more rougher, you know, where I'm a little looser with stuff. And one of the other guys, RC, is spray paint, right? Graffiti artist. So you want to talk about loose? That's getting loose too. And he's looking at your pieces, and he's like, "How did he do that? I don't even see a brush stroke." And I'm like, I have no idea. It's what your concept, your composition, how things come together. And so these 2 originals, which are available, chuckjonescatalog.com/Daniel-Killen. I just like to do the hand motion too. I'm not Italian, but it feels like it. So, there's pieces.
Oh, you got a visitor again.
I have hidden children in here. Yes. Okay, well, that's fine. Take that back over there and wash it off, please. Thank you very much. So,
if a kid comes up behind me, let me know, because then I have to call the police.
Randomly, I'm like, I thought we just like threw them in for props. No?
Right.
So when we get into these pieces, you know, Carnivore, which is this one right here, is probably, like, I have a lot that are a favorite of yours, but having this piece here, I get to stare at it a lot. This is also available. And you can see where your influences is. You got to go to the Andy Warhol exhibit while you were out in Chicago. So we have a Warhol-esque influence, but there's so much to your pieces that you really have to look at it. And, you know, I bring up Lonely Hearts Club Band, and I'm not gonna take it off the thing. It's an original, and it's sitting very nicely. I'll let Scott Ryder put that image up on the screen, and then that right there. Now, you got, like, ladies and gentlemen, you got to see the detail in this thing, and I can't find a brushstroke anywhere. It's amazing what you pull off. You're lettering the whole thing, and look at how many elements are in here. I went back today when I took this off the wall to put it over here, and I'm like, I didn't even see the duck in the bottom corner.
Oh, you didn't see the duck? I actually have that duck.
Do you really?
That duck shows up another piece I did.
Is it the anime?
You can see the brushstrokes around Chuck's head. You got to get Chuck's head right, and you got to get the logo right. I wanted to do it, obviously not going to put the Beatles, but, you know, the background, you just, you know, you wouldn't see if I sprayed it or something. But, you know, there's so much stuff in that original album cover. You know, you just blotch on the more, but there's just so much stuff. It's like, I can't do everything in the album cover. You know, I'd still be working on it. So I just picked out things that were pivotal, and I'm glad they had a little TV and stuff. But you've replaced the hat with Elmer's hat and stuff. And you know, I always loved the physical look of these characters, just the black. And you know, this brings up something. When I was in art school, not to change the subject too much from this piece, but you're taught, when I did painting classes at Fullerton and Cal State Fullerton, the first thing they teach you is don't use pure black. There's no pure black in real life. And, you know, black is actually a mixture of different colors. So you see color in black. But it was, I hated that because I love black. So working on this stuff, and Pepe we just saw there, and the cat, pure black. You know, I can put little highlights on it, on the back of the tail and stuff, but because I want to look the way it does in the cartoons, the cell animation, I've been given permission to use black and purchase black and actually put it into stuff. And to me, it just, I love it. And, you know, just capturing the attitude. And
so did it feel were you like, I get to use black for the first time?
Yes. And I like, you know, I don't necessarily want to be told what I can't do by an art teacher, but I'm like, oh, they're teaching me the way it's always been done. But you see black all the time in comic books, you know, and that's art to me.
Right. Well, you know, I mean,
amazing art to me. So there's, to be able to use black on this character and other characters. And
I mean, you do strike me as a rebel, especially given your Star Wars poster. I would consider you a rebel.
Rebels, when no one's looking, yeah. I never be a rebel in front of people because I don't want to get in trouble. I'm already putting lots of stuff in my artwork because I think I enjoy doing it, but at some part, I think maybe I'm trying to work out things from childhood and I just don't realize it. But it's just the cleverness, and the cleverness you see. I'll go back to one of my influences, which was Norman Rockwell, just the little tiny things you see and the little hidden things. And that little story that's even in that album cover. In the original album cover for the Beatles, you don't necessarily see a story. Mm-hmm. But in that one, mine, because of the cat back there, and her kind of longingly looking at Pepe, even there's kind of a story. But the other story I'm telling that maybe people don't pick up on is in the original album cover, there are tons of images of human beings in that. You got the Beatles and you got all these cutouts and other people and stuff. But in mine, it's vacant. And it's vacant because of the odor coming from his tail. He's a skunk. They've left. You know, she's there because he's a beetle. But they've taken off. There would be no one else. And that's the first thing I thought of when I think Robert or one of them came up with the idea of the album cover. I'm like, how am I going to do all those people? You don't need to do all those people. He's a skunk. They left. If I thought about it, I would have had turned over chairs and stuff and trash blowing because where all the people took off from this skunk.
And see, I never even knew that. I've always like digested just what was on there, and I didn't realize what was
Yeah,
on there.
I didn't want people to think, well, there's too much work. It's too lazy to put all those people in. No, they weren't supposed to be in there, and that's what sold me on doing that one particular idea.
Interesting. So speaking of hidden objects, if we, Scott Ryder, is there a way we can get the second balloon poster up? Because Cheryl wants to know where the hidden Roadrunner is on the second balloon poster. Is there a hidden Roadrunner, Mr.
And the second one, yes. And the third one. Well, that's the third one. The second one has a coyote head.
Okay, so where is the hidden Roadrunner in here?
Okay. I can't make this big, but if you go near the coyote's gondola basket, and if you go up to, if you're looking at the gondola basket and you go, I'm going to say the 10 o'clock position. So just to the left of the Acme, a little lower to the left of the Acme, in the cloud, do you see the silhouette of a Roadrunner right there?
Oh, I see his head. Nice. All right, so we've got the hidden Roadrunner in the clouds. And what about in the, you said there's one in the third poster?
There's one in the third one. I didn't know they wanted that. So the first poster, the hidden Roadrunner is hiding behind a rock. But the third one,
Is that the first one?
That's the first one. Go to the third one. The third one, go to the tree. Kind of the middle tree to the left of the Roadrunner's gondola. Go into the tree. And you'll see it right there, right there. See it there to the left, the silhouette of the Roadrunner?
Yes, no, Scott, right there. So it's right, yes.
You see it?
The little silhouette. I see the little white outline and the yellow in the hair.
Yeah.
Or his plume, if you were.
You see the silhouette of him with his tail sticking out. I didn't know Roadrunners went into trees until I saw one do it a month ago on the hiking trail where I live. So I just, no one look in the tree, and of course they go into trees. But that one, if you could, the second one, could you put the second one up again?
Yes. All right, we've got the second one on. Wait, go back to
that one. That's it. So one of the ladies who helps you there, Lisa, she has a daughter named Jillian. So whenever I go there to do signings, she always gets out a piece of paper and draws my poster for me and gives it to me as a gift.
Really?
A piece of paper. So while I'm there, this is just one of them. While I'm there, so she draws it, right?
Oh, that's awesome.
But she draws everything, you know?
She did not leave anything out.
She didn't leave anything out. And this is amazing. So every year I've got one of these. So it's really just really amazing. And it's stuff like that. It's like, to go back to that first question, or the last question, you know, what do you know now you wish you knew at the beginning? It's like, if I knew that people would like my artwork enough that someone would feel to do this, I would have believed in myself a lot more sooner. So.
Well, I'm certainly glad you believe in yourself now, because you are a wickedly talented.
Oh, I didn't say that.
Well, I'll say it. Thank you very much. So here's another painting that you did, and I have two questions coming in, and one is comic influences. So you mentioned comic books, you know, and looking at that as art. Did you have any comic influences?
My comic influences were. My comic influences, I think, were Danny Kaye. Ironically, same initials. This is behavior movies like White Christmas and stuff. He did, growing up, a movie called The Court Jester. Just, that was an influence as far as humor. But I think starting early on, my biggest comic influences would be shows like, well, it would be the cartoons for sure. But I used to laugh hilariously at the show MASH.
Yes.
Especially those first seasons, because all this serious stuff's going on, but they still have this brilliant writing, this kind of sarcasm. And you know, I was 7 years old when that premiered, but it's amazing how much of an influence that had, and the Mary Tyler Moore had. Maybe some younger people don't even know what that is, but
I know what that is.
I thought those were just hilarious.
So those are, well, you can tell too, in like just your sense of humor and what you put in, that would totally make sense with who would influence it. And what I want to do is, Scott Ryder, if you can pull up the animated, still animated life, and then
the only oil I ever did for Chuck Jones. I haven't done an oil since. I work in oil, but not a fully oil painting.
So there's a lot going on in here that I didn't even realize until I didn't know there was a Daffy Duck silhouette until like way later. I think it would have probably last year or something when I saw the piece again and I was just staring at it. Could you point out the hidden elements in here? Now obviously we see what's right in front of us, and there the duck makes its appearance again.
There's that duck. I've still got that duck. That rabbit's out in my garden right now. The Roadrunner I borrowed from my dad. And the leaf was from the front yard. It was fall. But just before I tell you, the paw and the hat, Michigan J. Frog, I made those out of Sculpey. I knew what I wanted, so I just made them out of Sculpey clay and painted them. And the frog, again, from the garden. But this is my actual fireplace mantle here. And the hidden elements, as I was doing the leaves and saw the different shapes, I'm like, I could totally get away with putting the characters in, the silhouettes of the characters in the leaves, right?
Yes.
But without, people wouldn't need to see them to enjoy the piece. You know, if they saw them, great, but if they don't, the piece still works. And of course, right above the leaf, if you look at that big leaf, you go straight up, you'll see a silhouette of Bugs Bunny right there. He's right there by the line shadow of the window pane. If you go to the left, towards where you see stop to the left of the Roadrunner head, you see a silhouette of the coyote about to take off running. Right?
Oh, I've never seen that one either.
Yeah. And then you go to the right. You go to the right. Keep going. Stop. At the very bottom in the middle, you see the Roadrunner.
Oh, right by the paintbrush.
Right by the paintbrush. Now, go up a little. In fact, you don't have to change it. See the purple pencil?
Yes.
Go straight up from that. The empty area, you see Michigan J. Frog dancing with his head in his hand.
I've never seen that either.
And then go all the way down, down. And there's Daffy right there. On the bottom, because Daffy's always on the bottom. He's always trotted on and stuff. So there he is.
So it's an amazing piece. And it took me, like I said, I've never seen Michigan J. Frog in there. I've never seen the Roadrunner or Wile E. Coyote. I did see Bugs and I did see Daffy, but those are the only two characters I saw.
I forget how big that was, but yeah. I took, I did all oil paintings in college, and I think I've posted on Facebook in the past. I don't have a lot that survived, but you're taught to kind of do real and to learn how to do reflective color, reflective light, and mixing colors. And like in that one, there's nothing that's pure black. But I always remember college. Some people call themselves self-taught artists. I think we're all self-taught to a point, but then you start absorbing other things and maybe that's a good idea. And being taught how to work from dark to light and tones and hues and all that. And it wasn't until later I got into acrylics and the things you could do with acrylics. But I had this idea of just this these sort of dramatic paintings you see. You see dramatic paintings on people's walls in some old house, and I'm like, that's kind of what I want. And so yeah, I ended up with that, but I haven't done one since. I always get sick. I shouldn't say sick, ill working with oil paints to a degree. If I'm working exclusively with them, I always thank God for the day they invented terpenoid or turpentine.
So is it just like, is it the odor of the oils themselves that just doesn't work well?
Odors. I like to think it's the odor. I have the same problem with enamel paint.
Really? All right.
So I have to be in a well-ventilated area. So I don't work with them. So I had not really an issue with acrylics or watercolors. Water base, obviously, it seems to be fine. But I still think I want to do another oil that's purely oil. I use oil. I still use oil sometimes to a degree, like light touches if I want to look on something. I mean, you can do oil. When I was there in Chicago with you last year, the great and amazing Tim Rogerson was there.
Yes.
And he was explaining, like, a lot of times he blocked in all the colors of this piece he was doing, this Mickey piece, and acrylics. And but then he also had oils. And you go back and do light oils to get a certain look. You can get a certain intensity with color. That kind of nice soft blend he was doing. And that was so cool. I'm like, oh, so it's not just me. I mean, I know other artists who've done it, but if you want a certain look on something, plus oils can be expensive, and it's nice to be able to plug stuff in. And the other thing, just a real quick thing, I know we're talking about the art, but something I got just before that, these, I don't know if you have these, but the handy palette things.
Oh, yeah, I was just about to bring that up. Do you know when I found out about those?
What?
And do I feel like an idiot? So you guys were all out here last year, right? We're all hanging out. We're doing the setting up for the Friday show. Rogerson's got his canvas up there. And I work in acrylics, but my acrylic style is pop art. It's a little bit different. It's a mix with that now and some spray paint, right? And because acrylics dry so fast, which is irritating for me.
Right.
What I like about oils is
right.
I can work it a little and blend. So Rogerson brings out his thing, and you're there talking to him too, and we're like, and I'm like, what's that? I'm like, you're doing this whole thing in acrylics? And he said, well, yeah. I'm like, how are you keeping them wet? He's like, I have this wet palette. What the heck is a wet palette? I'm 40 years old, and I have never heard of a wet palette before. So I'm fired, right? And I'm like, man, I need to get one. So I literally called up Blick this week because I needed, I'm like, do you guys have wet palettes? Because I need to come over and buy one. So that was like the magic sauce of using acrylics in a way that I could blend a little bit more, not quite like oils, but it gave it, instead of me like squirting out some paint on my palette and it drying in 5 minutes and I can't blend anything, like this thing stays wet for like a while. It's totally blown away.
So you don't have to, I'm like, yeah, my niece actually got this. She figured that out before I did and sent it to me as a Christmas gift one year, but a few years ago. But yeah, you mix certain colors and you're done for the day or something's going on that dries. Oh, how I got to remix it. How do I get it identical?
And then it frustrates the crap out of you because it just, yes. So the wet palette, genius. Anybody out there who's painting in acrylics, take it from Daniel Killen. And the guy who didn't figure this out till he was 40, use a wet palette.
Did you know they have these things now called electric pencil sharpeners?
What?
Yes. I've heard of them anyway.
So let me get this straight. This is my pencil sharpener, right? This is the
Where'd you get that from? Someone mail that to you?
Yeah. You know, somebody borrowed it and I didn't know where it was, and then it showed up in the mail one day. And Blackwing pencil, and I find the torque, right?
Right.
And so what you're telling me is there's something that does that for me, and
all
I
for you
is just put it in and it automatically sharpens a pencil.
It's amazing thing. Now what will they think of the internet? Now this.
Yeah, I feel like, man, do I feel ridiculous for not knowing what a wet palette was. So here's a question for you. We've got chuckjonescatalog.com/Daniel-Killen, right? Which you can see all.
Have you ever been a cheerleader? Because that was good.
You know, I practiced. I never made the team. Apparently, I was too large, and nobody could hold me up properly, and there was like it was a liability. So
Okay.
I grew too fast. So there's some pieces in that I love up on the site, and Bruce said someone's going to invent running water as sliced bread. Thank you, Bruce. Yes.
Sliced bread.
Right.
That's crazy talk.
I thought you talked the loaf, right, and then you use the serrated blade, and then there's just crumbs everywhere.
Not possible, but it's nice.
No, that's what I said. He's making it up. So I love Scott Ryder. If we can put up "Wish You Weren't Here." So this was the first piece that I saw of yours, right? And I love Wile E. Coyote. I love Roadrunner. I love Chuck's whole like story behind how he invented, you know, this character. And then I love, you don't see a lot of Ralph and Wile E. Coyote.
Ralphie Wolf, yes.
Right. And
people always think he and Wile E. Coyote are the same, and they're not.
No.
Wile E. Coyote has yellow for his eyes. Ralphie has white. And of course, Ralphie Coyote Wolf has red nose.
You know what? It's almost like Chip and Dale.
He has a red nose. And also, if you look at them together, Wile E. Coyote's pelt is a warm brown, and Ralphie Wolf's pelt is more of a cool brown.
See, those are details of why you're the genius.
I went to a seminar and they explained that to us.
And they're like, if you get this wrong, you better use cool browns. None of this warm brown nonsense. That's only with the bird.
A lot of people don't know this, but Acme Industries actually has seminars around the country you can go to. But
so how many of you attended, and were they successful?
They always end badly.
I would imagine not to the fault of the product, but probably, as in Wiley's case, the fault of the user.
They're dealing with lots of lawsuits.
Yeah,
but,
well, probably why they stay pretty quiet.
Yeah.
So there's, you know.
But yeah, Pink Floyd, you know, Wish You Were Here.
So I love that piece. It's one of my all-time favorites. Again, there's simplicity. I just love the fact that they're on set, right? So, and it's
yeah, and I've been on Warner Brothers backlot many times. I was familiar with the area, and I wanted to get the soundstage name, and I added in the sheep.
So
but, you know,
now, is there any significance in the number 20 and the number 17?
That just happened to be the name of the on the sound stages.
So that's an actual, like if I'm there on Warner Brothers and I'm looking at their sound.
That's where they would be. That's where they would be. And I still have a map of the Warner Brothers back lot showing where everything is. But and that grill, you know, and the color of the sound stages, and yeah, I like I said, I want it accurate, and those are also great cartoons as well. But that album cover traumatized when my brother got it, or someone I saw as a kid. It traumatized me that there's a man on fire, and I didn't want to go that far. You know, I don't want to be violent in the artwork. You know, I mean, it's implied that something's maybe happened or is going to happen.
Right.
But like the Carnivore piece behind you over your left shoulder, maybe there's going to be trouble. But you know, I'll have the little piece of fire on top of his ear and the smoke. But that's as far as I go. This one here, the Carnivore, you know, if people hadn't guessed, you know, I made a template so all the heads would be the same. But when I got to the top, I'm like, you know, the real Coyote should be in this. And how would we determine he's the real Coyote? And that would be the position of the eyes, the fact that he's the actual color of the Coyote. He has a little bit of a shadow, and the his bottom fingers are overlapping the square. So that tells you he's really there. It's like, don't tell me you're too old to remember this, but it's like Laughing.
Yes, I remember Laughing.
And they'd have those little doors open with celebrities would pop their heads out. So it's sort of like that. But then I'm like, because this is based on Connoisseur, it's a Norman Rockwell piece. That's why I put my name on it to look like Norman Rockwell's. But that's why I decided, you know, Bugs is always one step ahead when it comes to Coyote. So he should have, instead of an umbrella, he should have this mallet. So like I was just saying, you don't see any, you know, standard Looney Tunes violence, but it's implied that something will happen.
Well, I think that's what I love about the wit of your pieces is you have a story going on, and you don't need to have it all spelled out for you. There's something left for your imagination to think about when you're
right. I don't want to tell people what to think or feel.
No.
I want them to. And my brother calls it the "what next" moment when he looks at my art. You don't know what's going to happen next. You, the viewer, get to figure that out. So it's kind of like a one-panel cartoon in a sense.
Yes.
That you might see in the newspaper, like a Far Side or something. But at the same time, with all my pieces, I always have to keep in mind I want them to be pretty looking. I want them to be nice looking. I want them to. I want people to be able to walk down the hallway or down their stairs with it there on the wall, and it's pretty to look at. It's not some obnoxious, ugly thing. So.
Well, I would say you pretty much nailed that on every piece. And I wanted to bring up a piece too.
Again, I posed for that one too.
Did you?
Yes.
With the mallet, then you take a picture from, yeah. I
right.
mean, you put it on the timer.
Right, exactly.
So, now, I'm a huge, I love the Air Force. My brother was a major in the Air Force. So,
really?
Yeah, and now flies for Southwest, but he was a major in the Air Force, graduated from the academy. So yesterday, Happy Veterans Day was part of it.
Happy Veterans, yes.
Now,
thank you for your service.
Aerospace has always fascinated me, right? In general.
Right.
There you go. What is that? The original sketch?
No, I just printed this so I'd have a copy.
So
a lot of my artwork I don't see again. It just disappears, and I wonder how it's doing. So I like having little mementos.
Yes. So I like this memento because this was when I saw this piece for it, I loved the subtlety of everything, and being obviously Snoopy being my favorite of the Peanuts characters, and always watching the cartoons when I was growing up, and him like fighting the Red Baron, right?
Right.
So I loved this piece. Available, chuckjonescatalog.com/Daniel-Killen. There's the piece. I loved this piece. So
thank you.
That brings me to my question of when you
I pose for it?
Yeah, well, I want to know if you pose for it, because how do you contort yourself into the doghouse?
I'm in the box. I'm in the doghouse.
And are you hanging? Is it hanging?
I added that later. I'm actually on a table, and I just didn't paint the table. But yes,
it's impressive. So when you've gotten to work with all kinds of stuff, all kinds of very cool characters that mean something to you, right? That have had an impact on you, whether it's this piece for the Snoopsonian, right? Or you've got your Looney Tunes stuff, and there's all kinds. I'm not even going to bring up one that when I first saw it, I'm like, what? But it's with a certain metal man, right? And some donuts. Take a look at chuckjonescatalog.com/Daniel-Killen, right? You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a little ridiculous, especially when
you'd be great at parking airplanes at the airport.
I just see things, and I don't think so. We were geeking out. This is too big of a wave it on, right?
If you were one of those guys with that job with that, they would do whatever you wanted.
I think they would. I bet I could get them to park in a totally different spot.
And they would do it if you're holding that.
And I'd be like, you know what? I need you to turn the plane around and back it in.
They do it.
They would do it. So is there a favorite, I don't know, like a favorite, I don't want to say a piece that you've done, because, like maybe they're all your babies and you really enjoyed it, but like a piece that you really found yourself, or when you were done with it, you didn't realize that you had invested that much of yourself into, and it was kind of like, wow. And then you just kind of sit back, and it's something that you just, just something that kind of blew you away, where you after the fact, you realized, man, I really love this piece. And it was hard to let go.
Yeah, it would have to be anticlimactic here. But I always think of the Bugs Bunny piece behind you, the coyote. based on the Norman Rockwell.
Is that one hard to let go? Where you were like,
Yeah,
finished with it, and it was kind of like, man,
it was hard to let go. I mean, you know, I took a picture of it, so it's not like, so I'm okay.
You're like, Robert, can I buy a print of my own piece? Do you mind?
Can I do it on Way Away?
You take payment.
But yeah, that one, because inspired by Norman Rockwell, I'm such a big fan of Norman Rockwell. And here I am doing where I'm kind of honoring Norman Rockwell, but with Looney Tunes characters, and it's going to be in a gallery. Oh my gosh, someone might buy it. It really touched me in a way others didn't.
And I totally get what you mean by that, because I've had those kind of experiences where you kind of do something and you know how you can see it in your head, and then it comes out and you're like, oh.
I'd say I'm thinking about it being a tie. There's a tie between that, and there's a tie with the third Balloon Fiesta piece I just did. Because the third Balloon Fiesta piece I just did, which you showed earlier with the Roadrunner and the tree, it just turned out so pretty. And I wasn't sure what to do for a third one. And I just kind of let it go and just drew a concept without thinking too much. And it just kind of came out of me.
Mm-hmm.
And just the idea of coming up with the idea of having it be pretty, but not violent in any way, because it's a coyote and Roadrunner. And I came up with the idea of the image of an explosion you all saw in Looney Tunes cartoons. That blast panel with the white and the yellow and the orange and the red. And I made that into the design pattern of the coyote's balloon. The coyote's balloon, that design is an explosion based on the explosion you all used to see.
Oh, I didn't even notice that the ribbon around the thing is the Roadrunner running and the coyote chasing with a knife.
Yeah, it's a zoetrope, and the old style. You'd crank a little carousel-like thing, and you'd actually see animation happen. So I thought of that in honor. They were animated characters, and
that is brilliant.
But with the explosion design at the base of that balloon. And that one was hard to let go too. I mean, obviously I was doing it for Albuquerque people, so they were getting it, but still it's like, wow, I really need to get a print of this.
Yes.
And it came out and ended up being my favorite. It's sitting somewhere, but it ended up being my favorite of those three. So I put that next to the Carnivore, maybe for different reasons, because of just it's nice to look at. I think it's the prettiest thing I've done as far as colors and stuff. And of course, the Carnivore I love for other what I discussed earlier. But yeah.
So and that's what there's so much to your pieces, and I have a handful. I have 5 around here right now. I freak out that I have your originals of this. Somebody please.
I freak out too.
Yeah, you should freak out, because I don't think I trust myself with that. And I white glove it back on the wall, and I marvel at just when I keep looking at your pieces, I can keep finding more stuff, and I find myself drawn into other areas of it, and it reveals something else, like the zoetrope thing on the balloon. I didn't even notice that until I looked at this last time Scott Ryder had it up, and I've seen that image a dozen plus times. I love what you put into it, and that whole, just the idea behind things. Now, as you, every time I talk with artists as they're creating stuff, there's kind of moments where they experiment a little with this or try a little of that and be like, maybe I'm feeling a little bit of a shift. Is there something style-wise even that you're like, man, I'd love to tackle this? And then giving yourself the authority to do it.
Yeah, we've discussed this. I'd love to be able to, when I do little doodles for Facebook and stuff, or drawings, I do them, or even nice pencil sketches. I even though I want to go accuracy, I tend to let myself be more loose when it comes with pencils. And so a lot of the work is like maybe rougher looking, or things are just suggested. And that's a lot of fun, and that's why I love working with colored pencils, or just, you know, just a pencil, you know. But I'd like to have the confidence to do that with painting. I tried a bit, I think, with one piece, but it's like, it's sort of ingrained in me. It's like a part of you, oh no, you got to get perfect. You can't have it like the whole people. We didn't tell people the pencil sharpener story completely, but it's like, it's got to be right.
Yes.
You know, you look at, I mean, you look at something like here, I mean, it looks like Luke Skywalker. There is a roughness to other things, but I love that accuracy of the character has to look like this. And then maybe I think a part of it comes from the old Looney Tunes cartoons. If it was Chuck Jones or someone else, the backgrounds and everything were blocked and solid and perfect and clean. And the characters, the animation cells were clean and perfect. And there's a part of that I personally get a thrill out of it. You know, I know there's other artists that's you see the brush strokes everywhere, and it's all suggested. And to me, that requires a great deal of confidence and be able to let loose. Just let loose. And I'm more, you know, I originally wanted to be an architect when I first started drawing as a kid, watching the Brady Bunch. I wanted to be Mike Brady, and I took a lot of drafting classes and stuff. And I think where that kind of precision maybe was born there without my realizing it. And then working in animation where you're doing all these lines and everything has to be perfect. When you do cleanup on rough animation, they do rough animation as your job to clean it up. It was certain jobs I had. And I think it just comes from that sort of, it has to be clean and right. Norman Rockwell's artwork, of course, I told you he's an idol of mine. He could be rough, and you'd see it, the paint strokes and the roughness. But I also love another artist named Weindecker, and his stuff is much more clean and more blocked in. And I think that was kind of maybe more of an influence on me too. So I wish I had the confidence to go that far. I did this, not to make this a dark subject. I did this when, this was part of a series of paintings I did, right?
Yes.
I did these back in 2012. They were part of a group I was in, a grief recovery group. You know, I just lost my dad, and they wanted us to paint. They gave us the canvases and the paint. You couldn't use a brush.
Really?
And you weren't allowed to paint anything. You had to paint your feelings. It was a way of working through grief. So you could use your fingers, or you could use a Q-tip and nothing else. And you just paint with your feelings, and there are no rules. And I have to admit, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed it, but I have yet to really explore it too much in my work. I mean, maybe if I'm, you know, doing like a tree or a bunch of flowers or something, or clouds. But that's the one thing I think my style would look a lot different. But
you know what I find fascinating about that is, so you say that, you know, it's for you, it's a, you know, like it would take more confidence to be rougher in what you're.
Yes, because that it's still in me. It still has to look like that character.
True.
It has to look like that character. So to be rough and loose, but still have it look like that character, like say someone like Rob Kaz or someone.
Yes.
You know,
so
that
but that's what I find fascinating, is because for you it takes more confidence to do a rougher version. For me, it takes more confidence to do what you do. To really get that meticulous. I'm like, man, because it's, I find it very interesting how we have these narratives for ourselves, you know, and then what stops us from, you know, from pushing past that, and then just, even if it doesn't go anywhere, just trying it to see what happens.
Trying it. Yeah, I think we all have our own narratives, our own life experiences that have led us to these. That's why we have different styles. And that's, yeah, I think it would, I look at, because you and I are big fans of Monet, right? And
Yes.
I'm fans of other arts, like a lot of the Impression. I've got tons of books of Impressionists and Van Gogh and everybody. And I obviously love that artwork. I love that artwork, but I'm not. I don't have that confidence. Maybe someday I will. Maybe someday I will. If I want it enough, if I want to do it enough, I'll do it. But I'm having lots of fun doing how I do it right now. You know?
Which is why moving the train when it's going on the right track?
Right.
Do you like that? That was an analogy I totally made up right now.
I'll like it later when I think about it more.
So do you have a couple of sketches from, you had mentioned, oh wait, is that the clock?
Yes.
Hey, let's nerd out together. So check this out. Yours says, what is yours? 5:19. Mine's 8:18 because I'm a few hours behind it. Actually, it's
okay. Is yours gray?
Well, yeah. Is yours black?
Mine's black, but the yellow Batman thing.
Yeah, well, maybe you have the 1989 Michael Keaton Batman is what I think you have. I have I'm not sure what version Batman, but it's the gray.
Does yours sit down? Yes.
Thank you very much.
There you go.
And he waves to you. See?
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, if we went through the toys that I have on my desk, we would be here for a very long time.
Can I show? This has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Please do.
I love Guillermo del Toro's movies.
Yes.
And I went to a book signing at the LA Museum of Art, and so I got one of his books on the making of the art of this was Crimson Peak.
Ooh.
And I met him. There's a long line, 1,000 people in line. I got him to sign it.
What?
Yeah.
See, that's awesome.
Really nice guy. Really, really nice guy.
Yeah, he's another one of those. Like, if you ever worked with him on one of his projects, I would, not that I would just serve coffee, but if I could be in that, somewhere in that pre-biz creative, just letting his mind unleash as he's explaining the visuals that he's putting and what that puts into your imagination.
Right, exactly.
So, Daniel, do you have any sketches from?
This is a print, but just in case you ever watch the Iron Giant again, I drew this. So.
I don't think a computer could do a better job of type.
Listen, my effects supervisor said we'll have someone draw it for you. And Bradbury says, yes, I want it drawn. And one of his assistants, they were next to I didn't actually meet him, but he spoke. And one of his assistants says, why don't we just, type it out? Like in Photoshop or something, just type it out. And he says, we got this building full of artists. I want an artist to do it.
Yes.
I got to draw it. So what do you want to see first? I mean,
I want like just a sprinkling of amazingness from that film would be awesome.
Do you see this?
Yes.
Do you see this?
Yes.
Without saying it, do you recognize what they are?
A rhino and an elephant.
Do you know who they were for?
Should I?
Elephant Rhino. This is just a real quick history thing, okay? I know you want to show stuff, but I used to be really into anthropology and spent a couple of weeks studying the Indian tribes, the 19 Pueblo nations of the American Southwest. But you still there?
Yep, I'm here.
All I see is me. So we went there, but a lot of reservations, they don't want you to take pictures.
Okay.
Or you can take pictures, but you have to pay a amount of money. I didn't have that. So when we get back to our vans and leave, I'd make notes of what, like kachinas, people, Native American dancers and stuff.
Yep.
So it's like I draw and make notes of what I saw, which would be very rough. This is like 1987, you know? So
Nope.
I draw what I saw so I remember. And then later in the hotel room, because I brought my pencils with me, this is 19, yeah. And then I draw what I actually saw, so I remember.
Holy cow.
You know? Yeah, so, and I did a bunch of these. I don't have them because I sold them to the people, there was like 14 of us. I sold them to the people in the group.
Yep.
So I kind of paid for my trip. So I draw Kachinas and stuff and Kivas and stuff.
Cool.
Anyway, you wanted to see what? This stuff?
Well, just like one more, we're gonna bring this to a head here shortly, but I wanted to know if you had like one more piece of Iron Giant work before I showcase a few of your other pieces.
So this is what, if you can see, this is what Hogarth's readout looks like in the Iron Giant.
Yes.
And this is my design that I did, that I was asked to do in the effects department.
Oh, I see his head.
All right, so I did his head and stuff, and I did a bunch of different ideas. Art Deco, I really love Art Deco and stuff. But I did a bunch of concepts, and this is like the individual pieces I still have.
What?
They let me walk out of the building with some of them. They don't have the official Warner Brothers seal, but my name's stamped on it. So it's like you have to do separate pieces, but they had me do a few designs. So that, like, this was like the original design.
Oh.
And then, no, why don't you change this, this, and that? And then, you know, I'd fool around with different ideas. You know,
That looks cool.
widescreen. I've always loved, this has been my favorite, but they didn't like it. But what does a Giant's readout look like?
No kidding.
There's a few more. And then I'll show you one more. Like, I like the helmets kind of in the top.
Yes.
But reject until they finally got down to the ones they like and stuff, which is neat. And so that was my Iron Giant readout. And then they needed the actual alien dialogue. What does each letter mean? So I did the alien dialogue, the letters.
You did a whole alphabet?
Yeah, whole alphabet. So it's like each letter is represented, you know, by some geometric symbol.
Oh, that's so cool.
So they're all in here. And, yeah, so I did a bunch of ideas for that. And then you saw the atomic holocaust.
Yes.
But let me find so hey, Daniel, can you do props? Can you come up with Hogarth needs binoculars? So they had me do, I came up with binoculars, Hogarth's binoculars.
That's awesome.
And different ideas. We need binoculars with a strap.
Well, it makes sense to me.
What does the binoculars look like from the side? And here's the official binoculars. So it's officially Warner Brothers binoculars I designed for Iron Giant.
Oh, that's cool.
But then they need like when Hogarth and Kent are in the soda shop, could you design glasses and stuff, you know?
And you know what's cool about this is these are little things that you don't think about when you're watching the film, as far as like something that you really do need, like someone had to sit there and figure that out before it got on screen to make it feel like it was just a part of the film.
They had to figure it out. And when you see Milkshake, I did the milkshakes. You know, I wish I had more stuff to show you. But yeah, just to go in the movie theater and see Hogarth's work and like, oh, that's on my design. It's all in color and moving and stuff.
That's awesome.
And of course.
Yes, come on. Impeccable lettering, sir.
Impeccable, thank you.
Bruce says we need a visit to your place and a future visit to SoCal.
Oh, sure.
We can all nerd out.
That's like, it's a shame because you work on movies for a studio and the next movie isn't successful. So they never do a making of book or an art of book.
Right.
Like we did a movie at DreamWorks called Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron.
Yep.
Are you familiar with that movie?
I am.
And so it's like I went up to the art department and made copies of stuff. So you get to see things that no one will ever see, like what the character designs look like.
Oh,
You know?
yes.
And what ideas were for different scenes. It's like this beautiful artwork that when the movie finished, they put in a box and, you know, is sitting somewhere
Oh,
where
that's
no one will
cool.
ever see them. I didn't do these, but the character designs, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's lost, you know. You will never have a making of book of Spirits Dying of the Cimarron.
Which I love. I love the making of books and the art of books. I've got a ton.
Of what books?
The art of books. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I do have. I do. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
I've got The Mandalorian season 1 on pre-order.
I didn't know they had that.
Oh, they do, and it comes out December 1st. So, as you're pulling, yeah, should I get my big helmet?
Dad, don't show off. This won't fit my head. I tried putting it on my head, but
Yeah, you might have to get a bit of a shoehorn for that one.
let me tell you something. When the movie ended at the cast party,
Yeah.
they gave everyone who worked on it our own metal Iron Giant pencil sharpeners.
And that's not an automatic one, right? That's one of those that you have to do.
This is one of the, you keep mentioning it. Automatic ones aren't real, but that's actual pencil sharpener.
That's awesome.
No bigger than a golf ball. It's like, oh my gosh.
That's cool. I love those little things though.
Right.
So as we bring this to a head, Mr. Killen, and
oh, we're not done.
Can we keep going? If you have more stuff, I'm here.
I mean, you got to go through your nerd period where you're drawing aliens and stuff.
Yes.
Oh,
So
yeah.
was there something that when you popped out in drawing that you were like, man, I would love to do a piece on this?
Say that again. You broke up there.
Oh, if intellectual property was not an issue, right, and you could do a piece of whatever you wanted, right, and put it, I mean, obviously you could do it anyway, but put it out there for sale, right? What would be the ultimate piece for you, regardless of the IP?
Regardless of the IP, it would have to be a comic book I came up with. Ski Steve and Snowball.
All right.
There's Snowball, and the guest villain is the Lift Snip.
Oh, almost sounds like a.
It wouldn't be Pogs.
No. Oh, I remember Pogs.
I'm trying to think. I think more than anything, I'd love to do an Indiana Jones piece.
I think you should just do one anyway and see what happens. I'm not saying, I'm not forcing you, obviously, but if it happened, I would totally be okay with that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Mr. Killen, as we wrap this, I'm getting the I need to bring out the hook on myself.
Is one of them doing just one more thing?
Yes, please.
I told you when I fell in love with animation when I was a kid, and Hanna-Barbera. So I drew my very first animation cell. I used a high school a notebook thing, 3-ring notebook. Mm-hmm. So this is my very first animation cell.
Really?
Yeah.
It's
awesome. Not Godzilla, it's Gogzilla for some reason. Obviously, I had issues spelling.
Well, you didn't want to. You had intellectual property rights. You didn't want to violate that. So Gogzilla.
I didn't want to violate it. I didn't want to violate it. So
you turned the D upside down. That's all you did.
So,
well, sir, what is that? Oh, come on.
This was for a Red Dot a few years ago. And this is a print, but it's I was going through weight loss, so I decided to make the Empire weight loss. So I turned that and this.
Oh yes, come on now, that's brilliant.
My favorite one is the speeders, and the all-terrain transports are donuts. But, yeah. Anyway, yes, it's been great talking to you. Who are you again?
John. And they told me I had to do this thing at 6 o'clock my time, so I just showed up to Zoom, and apparently the link worked.
Oh, okay.
And then I had, the stuff in the background. So that kind of made sense. So, hey, man, I want to tell you as we wrap here, first of all of this amazing stuff, remember Chuck Jones catalog / Daniel Killen, right? Thank you, Daniel. See, we could both do the same thing. As long as neither one of us had to lift each other, we'd be fine.
Ah, yes.
So yeah, I love this one. So we've got all this amazing artwork from Daniel Killen that's available. And if you purchase an original, he will do
I love that one. I love that one.
Sketch.
The Peepaw Puma one. Oh.
Absolutely. He'll do a sketch. So you'll do a sketch for an original of a Looney Tunes character with a gift with purchase, which is awesome. So make sure you either talk to your rep as you see something and take a look at these amazing pieces. Again, chuckjonescatalog.com, as you see on the bottom, / Daniel Killen. And so, sir, as I wrap this and bring it to a close, here's what I want to say. I'm going to gush on you for just 30 seconds. I had the pleasure of getting to know you years ago, right? And we were just kind of chit-chatting before I knew who you were, and you were discussing something about, is it a red dot?
It was San Diego, wasn't it? Or
yeah, San Diego. And so
family gathering.
We had and it was cool, and we were sitting out in that kind of courtyard thing, and you had semi-struck, and you had I think this one. I think these were the two pieces then unveiled, maybe.
Yes.
And so I just remember like your stories of things and what you were talking about, and I'm like, man, this super awesomely talented dude is completely down to earth. And you were funny, you were engaging with people, and you couldn't be kinder. And the more I have gotten to know you and had the pleasure of you coming out here last year and stuff, I have such an admiration for not just your talent, but just who you are as a person. And it's a great honor of mine that I get to call you friend, because I admire industry on multiple fronts.
Same here.
Absolutely. And I hope that as everyone kind of gets to see a little behind the scenes from Daniel Killen tonight, that I find that these kind of things help us to see that artist. I find myself more attached to the artist and their artwork after, getting to know them. But man, I think the highest of you, and not just in your artwork, dude, but just as you in a person. So I want to thank you so much for doing our Chuck Jones Creativeside Chat. Would you like to say anything to the audience tonight as we leave?
I got a whole bunch of things to say about you. I'm glad you're sitting down.
Yes.
Well, that means a lot to me. Thank you. Such kind words. I didn't know I'd end up living a life where people get to say stuff about me without, it means a lot. I didn't, thank you very much. Knowing you has been awesome. It's helped to bring me out of my shell. I won't keep it a secret that I was afraid to do this just out of nerves, because I don't like talking about my art and stuff. The worst artist in the world without Chuck Jones, because I don't want to talk about my art. And then you called and like, oh, I'm doing it. It. Ben wants me. I'm gonna do it. I cursed you afterwards. I won't say what I said because your kids are running around. But it was awesome. Thank you so much for that. I feel the same way about you and all the stuff you do at the center there, near the Arctic Circle, and
yeah, tell me about it.
And I loved being there last year with Tim Rogerson and Trevor Carlton. Yeah, we didn't have time to talk about Trevor Carlton being attacked by his own artwork. Maybe next time, but
we will. And I have the shirt to prove it. But we'll get into that at a later date.
And RC and his dad, and just everyone else, and leading people out. But it's just, you've been wonderful. You've been a wonderful influence. I think you've been a great positive addition to Chuck Jones and to your community there with all the stuff you're doing. And thank you for all those wonderful words. I hope this is being recorded so I can go back.
It's being recorded.
Is it good? Because otherwise I'll think I just dreamt it.
But you did great, man, and I'm so glad that you did this. I really am, because you're a class act. You're extremely.
I am.
Yeah, you are. I'm going to say you're a class act, and everybody gets to see that. So as we go tonight, ladies and gentlemen, remember chuckjonescatalog.com / at the same time, thank you. Ready? Daniel Killen. There you go. Right. If you're watching on Facebook, you got the double screen. and check out his stuff. It's amazing, and you've gotten to witness a little bit tonight. Thank you so much on Facebook.
Thank you, everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you for your questions and joining in tonight, and have a great night, evening. Daniel, adios, my man.
Adios. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.